Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This is episode 980. In this episode, we've got a fantastic guest. We've got Casey Wu with us. He's the founder and CEO of Operators Guild. It's a great community for online entrepreneurs and people that have got enormous knowledge in building SaaS products and that. He also has got a load of knowledge himself. So, Casey, would you like to give the tribe a quick 10, 15 seconds intro? And then when we go into the major part of the show, we can delve into your background in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. The quick background is I was in the military. Then I went to Wall Street in New York and realized in Wall Street, as amazing as that profession is, it wasn't for me. And what was for me was being a builder. So then I switched to the Bay Area. I've done 6 different tech startups. And in doing so, I founded a community and an investing group of who I call the new generation and a new profession called scalers. We are early stage hyper generalists, which has never been really needed before until tech exploded onto the scene. And I live in the Bay Area, and I'm a proud dad of 3 beautiful kids.
Oh, wow, busy man. And I've got my great co-host with me, Kurt. Would you like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Sure thing, Jonathan. My name is Kurt Von Onen. I own a company called Mañana No Mas. We're based here in Kansas, and we also work directly with the folks at WP-Tonic.
It should be a fantastic interview. I've been looking forward to it. But before we go into the meat and potatoes, I got a message from one of our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Hey, running a business is tough. You shouldn't have to worry about your website too. With Kinsta's managed hosting for WordPress, you get lightning fast load times, enterprise-grade security, and 24/7 expert support from real humans. Switch to Kinsta and see site speeds improve by up to 200% with effortless migrations and powerful, easy-to-use dashboard. Join over 120,000 other businesses who also trust Kinsta. Get your first month for free at kinsta.com. That's KINSTA.com. Kinsta. Simply better hosting.
We're coming back, folks. I also love to tell you about a new sponsor. They're with us for the month. It's masteryyo.com. They're a learning management system, a new one. Have I butchered the name completely, Kurt?
I think maybe you have. I think it's Masteryyo. I think it is.
Masteryyo.
Well,
Masteryyo. So it's a fantastic new learning management system plugin. The free product has, as part of it, Stripe and PayPal integration. That's with the free product. And then they got some pro versions. It looks really fantastic. So the links to it are going to be in the show notes. I highly recommend it. So go and have a look at it and see if it will work with your clients. Like I say, masteryyo.com. Like I say, a new learning management system. So let's go into it. So we had a bit of your intro. So maybe how did you get into the army? What led you to go into the armed forces?
I don't get that question as much on these shows. I enjoy it. They didn't just skip to the tech part. This is going to be a very honest but embarrassing answer. Is I was an overachieving kid in academics. I was a valedictorian, did well, and was expected to go to kind of the Ivy League schools. I applied there, but there was a school called West Point. My uncle, out of nowhere, I remember in Chinese, like, have you heard of West Point? And the way he said it was like, it was so revered and admired. And I looked into it, and long story short, it just looked more badass. It's like Navy SEAL jumping out. I'm like, that is just so hardcore. I want to do it. I want to do that. I wasn't ever planning to go to the military. So I'm smart, but not smart. It's just like, wait, that's the military. This is not summer camp. This is the real deal. So I did. It's also a leadership institution. I love people is what I realized. I love teams. I love being with people. And so, yeah, so I did it because it was different and badass.
That's back when the commercials were badass
Yeah,
too.
I mean, yeah, right. I mean, it works. It worked. The 16-year-old me is like, ooh.
So,
but it's amazing. It's an amazing place.
So how old was you when you went to West Point then?
17, 18.
Yeah.
So
was it as badass as your vision? Did the realities of West Point meet your fantasy? Oh, it's frozen a little bit.
No, my visions are pretty crazy. Sorry, you're bro. Yeah, no. The institution, I think it's the oldest. I think it's the oldest academic institution in America, or close to it, right? But basically, they've had hundreds of years or maybe a little over 100. I'm not. Don't quote me, but they have had a long time to perfect the routine, the regimen. So there's a lot of tradition there. And through that, they train you in ways that, I think are very unique, specifically leadership orientation. But what I like about West Point as much as it's well-rounded. Everyone there is pretty athletic. Everyone there has to do a lot of different things. So it wasn't what I call a specialist school. Right? There's certain schools that, which don't get me wrong, is amazing, like art school, where they're really good. No, everyone kind of is everything. That's ironic now that I think about it, because the book I'm writing and the Operators Guild that I lead is the generalists. We are the people that have to do a lot of different things, and I think now that I look at it, that's who I am.
Well, that's what I thought I would ask you about this, because that occurred to me. So, how long was you in the army then?
So I actually was in the military in the academy for only 2.5 years.
Yes.
The short story is halfway through, I said, I love West Point, love all stuff, but I actually want to do more things than just the Army, which, like I said, should have thought about that before you signed up. I was doing pretty well at West Point, and it generally means you can pick the branch and you kind of can control a bit where you're going to go after you graduate.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do aviation. So that's Blackhawks, Apaches. That's more schooling, by the way. So just like kind of fighter jets in Navy. So if you take so I'm a sophomore, so that's junior, senior, 2 years, and I think another 7.5, not 5. So we're talking almost 10 years more. And it was just, wow. Like I was 20 and they said, yeah, you're good. Keep going. And then when you're 30, you can come out. They're like, 30, I can't even keep a girlfriend around for a year, let alone do anything for 10 years. But more importantly, I had a lot of other interests. I want to do economics. I want to do finance. I'm like, what's my opportunities to do other stuff than fly helicopters? They're like, you can go to adult school, like, night school, and then like study, because the finance branch just closed that year. But you can go to a business school when you're 30. We send you to Harvard Business School. And I was like, so it didn't feel, I was too impatient, to be honest. So, and you have to leave. You have to leave before your junior year starts, unless otherwise there's penalties.
Yes, that's how I was. I know Sandhurst, the British Army.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's exactly right.
There are penalties. You sign a contract. So So it was.
That's right.
It was the moment of truth. They were asking for you to sign the dotted line.
Exactly what it is. Yeah, West Point, Sandhurst, same. Yes.
Right. So you decided then for Nance. What led to that decision, and how long was you in finance?
So I went to Harvard. So I have a kind of a weird hybrid undergrad. It's West Point and Harvard. Very different schools, but they're all both very extreme. I mean, Harvard, I studied economics because I always thought, I don't know what I want to do, but I don't know. I'm supposed to make money. But like when you take a job, I don't know. You're supposed to, and I'm good with numbers. I'm not really artistic, right? I'm not great at sports.
Was your family more supportive about you going to?
That's another good question people don't ask me. When I said when I want to go to West Point, my mom started crying.
Oh, God.
And my dad was happy. He was happy because it's all paid for.
Right. Yes.
It's all paid for. And Harvard, both are happy. They get to see me more, and I'm not traveling the world fighting wars. But yeah, they're always been supportive. But I've always been the kid that's kind of done what I wanted to do. So a lot of people think do your parents push you? No, actually, my mom asked me to chill out. She's like, you just work too hard. And she said, hey, mom got B's in school. It's okay. You don't always have to get A's, So I realized a lot of it is self-motivated. Oh, and I'm sorry. So finance, because your question, I went to economics, I studied economics. And when you're in an economics program, it's a very strong pressure to say, all right, what is the best thing you could do? Mm-hmm. There's 2 steps to finance nirvana. Step 1, go to an island called Manhattan and get an investment banking job at Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley. That is like step 1. Hard to do, fight, internship, interview, sell them with army stories, be different, whatever. Just got to get in. Okay, so you're there. Amazing crew of people, super talented. A lot of my close friends now. 2 years there. It's almost like boot camp, very similar. It's called Wall Street boot camp, in my opinion. And the second and last step is get a hedge fund or private equity job and retire. Have you seen The Big Short, the movie? It's a great movie. It's about a hedge fund manager. So that was my path to finances. A good one. And that's where I ended up, Wall Street.
So how long was you in Wall Street?
8 years.
So almost as long as what the army wanted from you.
I couldn't even get that far. Yeah. Almost as long. I couldn't even do that.
So you decided after 8 years that Wall Street was getting a little bit not your buzz. Is that about right? How long did that feeling that it was time to move on, how long did that take before?
Yeah. I had this amazing hedge fund job. I had a corner office overlooking Central Park. My office was bigger than my apartment. It was just amazing. I was like, wow, I feel so lucky, so cool. Billions under management, everyone wanted to take me out to steak dinner, right? It's one of those things. You're like, oh my God. But I wasn't for some reason motivated. I don't know what it was. And that's when I realized for the first time, for those listening, I never believed when people said, find your passion, your fulfillment. I was like, bullshit. You just make money. That's what it is. You make money. You make money, you'll be happy. Oh, I make money. I wasn't happy, right? So I proved to myself, wow, there's more to just your bank account. And I realized over time, I missed people. So hedge funds, if you look at Big Short, the movie, he actually doesn't interact with many people. So a hedge fund manager at public equities generally is a very lonely job. Sorry, not lonely, solo. Some people are not lonely. Because it's almost like a researcher. The PhD student, yeah. They're working on their own thesis, the stock thesis. They're not, they talk to like analysts and stuff, but it's really a lonely job, in my opinion. So I miss my team. So investment banking and military I liked for some reason, but they are way harder and more gruff, on paper than hedge funds. But you know why? Because there's a team. So what I tell people is don't think of jobs just as your title or money. Think of the environment. Are you building? Are you transacting? Are you with a team? Are you by yourself? Very different. I am not someone that can be alone. I need to be with teams. You can see the energy I have when I talk to you guys. This is just who I am. So you shut me down and you put me in a beautiful office by myself, I go crazy. Right? So anyways, also public equity investing is generally more transactional. You're not per se building anything. I mean, you're building a portfolio, but you're not building, right? I mean, maybe you're building the company, but I wasn't, right? You're studying a stock. So lawyer, consultant, auditor, banker, transacts and advises, which is fine. But remember, it's transaction advice. It's not building.
Yeah.
Right? So then I realized I was a builder. So I realized that by I moonlighted for a VC who started to research and invest in startups. And I would sit across the table from founders and be like, wow, I love this guy's passion. He could go do Wall Street. No, he wants to build his company. Jesus, he is courageous. And I love the energy. You sat across, I mean, you've interviewed probably tons of founders.
Well, a few. Some are courageous and some are bonkers as hell. I think we're going to talk about one that might be classified as totally bonkers, but I'm going to throw, I think it's time. I wanted to delve a little bit into your background because I did some research on you. I'm going to throw the second question over to my patient co-host. Over to you, Kurt.
Well, Casey, I want to thank you for your transparency so far. I have some terms that I use. Like I think of like, you know, the entrepreneur's curse, the expert's curse, like things that you think about. And it's like, as you're talking, I'm like, those are bubbling up, right? Like, when I do consulting, I have a phrase when I'm teaching people about relationships. And I'm like, if you focus on the relationship, the transaction will happen naturally. So you need to focus on relationships over transactions.
Like that.
And then I hear you saying a very similar thing, like these positions are transactional, but you're not building anything. And to me, the building is the relationship. It's how we get things to move forward. So, but you got to remember, when I consult, I do like retail service-oriented businesses. So that makes a lot more sense in my space. For you, what do you think are like the major challenges? Because you had mentioned, most people go right to technology. So I'm going to go right to technology. What do you think are like some of the major challenges that you can share with like building and developing this online community? And to be more clear, Jonathan and I do another show called the Membership Machine Show, where we give people a ton of advice on building online communities, but it's really cool to have someone on the show that is demonstrably successful at it.
I actually did not flag that you guys run a thing that's just for online communities. That's amazing. No, I think there's very few community builders, leaders in the world by definition. And so when you meet one, you know when you meet one, right? Because it's a very, very unique world. So yeah, I would love to talk more about that. And I did realize my friends sometimes your friends tell you who you are. Whatever you think you are, your friends will probably tell you better. And they're like, you're a community builder. And ever since they said that, I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you accidentally built like 7 communities. I have a divorce community. I'm divorced. I have a dad community. I have a festival concert community. I have an opera community. So anytime I do something, I do it with others. I find others and I say, let's do it together. And that's just always been me. And so community is never something I thought I wanted to do. I just do. So yeah, so happy to talk about all things community, especially online.
I guess to make the question more specific in approach, you have a concept. You're like, I have a passion. Like you said, concert and festivals. And I was like, woohoo. Yeah. I love music. I suck at it myself, but I love to take it in. I'm a consumer. You have an idea for, I want to do this thing, whatever this thing is. And then you're like, I want to assemble a team of people to do this with me somehow or another. And we could look at, you could say Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson. You just start pulling names off the internet, right? Somehow they put a team together, but then that team exponentially increases into hundreds, if not more, of people that want to join in that community. Mm-hmm. And there's got to be a shift or some kind of paradigm moment where the momentum changes and picks up. What are the obstacles in getting to that moment, or can you identify that?
Are you referring to online community or in person?
I would struggle almost to say, I think they're very intertwined. I personally think that a successful community has elements that are online, but also does like the in-person festival convention, like whatever, like on it.
Let me see how to answer this. I think I understand the question, which is how do you get the momentum to have a breakout community? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. You can assemble 12 people in a room that think it's a great idea, but then how does it?
Now, to be very fair to what I said, I really only have 2 communities, maybe really only one that's broken out. The rest are my mini friend communities that, to your point, are the 10 to 15.
Yeah.
I do think this 10 number or whatever is where it breaks. It's very, very hard to build a breakout community. Very hard. I think to answer in many different ways, no particular order. One is authenticity. So to use the concert example, if I'm not really into concerts, that's not going to work. Like, you really need to understand and have a passion for whatever shared common interest is going on. For example, I'm a CFO, COO, and I built Operators Guild, which is a CFO, COO community. The legal community, no surprise, was started by a lawyer. The sales community was started by a salesperson. The salesperson tried to compete and build a CFO community, didn't make it. Not because he's not good. So a mom's group. Have you ever seen a dad run a mom's group? Not possible. So the first thing is you have to be authentic to whatever it is. You have to stand for it, and people can read you real well. Is this person a real concert person, or like? Because what I'm saying is certain people build communities because they think it'll make money.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to build a concert community because there's a lot of demand. That's great, but if you're not fully in it and you'll fully understand it, you will not build a big one. Okay, so that's one. So one is the leadership. Tony Robbins, I think, really believes in whatever and I don't think he's faking it, right? I think he's genuinely. Some people are really good at faking it. I'll tell you that one, but I can't do that. Okay, like I just can't do that. And eventually, you'll be discovered, because the DNA and blood of a community comes from the top. Anything comes from the top. The company, Travis of Uber, is a more aggressive personality. Uber was aggressive, no matter how big. The DNA flows. Okay, so that's a really big one. Is who's starting it, how authentic. The other is keeping at it. It takes forever to get that flywheel going. The trickiest part is the monetary part. Things cost money. So all of a sudden, if I said, hey, you two, let's do concerts. Hey, will you pay me $500 a year? You're like, wait, whoa, why? What am I getting from you? Well, I don't know. We'll get something eventually. No, so in the beginning, it's free. It's free.
Yeah.
Nothing's free. So whoever's doing it is costing a lot of time. So the problem is keeping at it. How long are you going to do this free community for? How long are you going to lose money for? How long are you going to make very little when you could be at Amazon making more money? That is the trickiest part, is the monetization. So first phase is scale. First phase is gaining enough people, because one of the values of a community is the numbers. Different perspective, network effect, right? 2 people is not really a network effect. 200 is. So the first phase is, can you get very specific on your persona and have density? So Operators Guild started in San Francisco. You can't just start like 17 people, 17 cities. No, that's not going to, you need some proximity distance. So you do density generally. Online, I think, is interesting, but there's time zone density, right? You don't want to, like, people wait, so there's that. So anyways, my point is, you get a very specific topic. Ours was scaling at early stage companies, and know who you are not. Do not let in everyone. So the first crop is so important. And I got lucky, right? We were all a very similar type, high caliber, A quality. And then was the value. The value was therapy. The value was solving questions, and we got lucky where everyone contributed. Then the last part is word of mouth. All of a sudden, communities start through, I know of this great group. I know that Operators Guild is the only paid community that I'm aware of in the world that's 100x organically. We don't have a single salesperson or go-to-market motion. It was all word of mouth. So anyways, so that's where I got lucky, because I think it was going to happen. I think this was a need. Oh, so the other thing, is there a need? Is there a need?
Yeah.
Time is the most valuable thing people have now. And in this tech world, our time is being consumed by everything. So getting someone's time is more difficult now. If there's 7 communities that I love, I don't have time for the 7 communities. Think about that. I have to be the number one community to them that matters the most to them. So if you think about it, to get a community to break out, it has to be specific. If it's too broad, the specific community will win.
to your point, I think that a lot of creators and organizers really struggle with your last statement, and that is that specificity, right?
Because of scale is like counter to that.
Yeah, because they keep thinking, well, I have this other vertical, and it's like, no, because now you're diluting your audience. You're not being focused. It's one of my actual failures, right? And so I have a couple. One is the other thing that you mentioned, the stick-to-itiveness. I had multiple products and initiatives that I was early to market on, meaning I had this great idea and I built this awesome thing, but I didn't have any customers for it. And then I lost patience and I turned it off. And then 2 years later, someone else did the exact same thing and became a millionaire, right? Then it's like, and you're like, oh, that was painful to watch. And so I went and did it again. So on my more recent project, I literally built it and it didn't do anything for years, but I just kept it going, being patient. Everyone said, turn it off. And I said, I can't. I've done it before. I'm not going to do it again. And now this is the 5th year that it's been out, and we finally have profit momentum after 5 years.
That's amazing.
But
wow. Yeah. 3 to 5 years. Yep.
Very focused, very niched, very directed, but it took forever to get that in. And now we're finally hitting that word of mouth stage you mentioned. But I don't know how many creators have 5 years of patience to wait for something.
That's exactly my point. My first thing about, in the beginning, it's free or next to free. So that's 5 years of their life. That's opportunity cost that they could be getting a well-paying job elsewhere, right? The time, it can only go one place.
Yeah. No, great feedback in there, Casey. I appreciate it. Jonathan, back to you.
Yeah, I think it's time for us to go for our middle break, where we've got some other sponsors, which we really appreciate. We will be back in a few moments for the second half, which should be as good as the first half. We'll see you soon, folks.
Updating plugins and themes shouldn't feel risky. That's why over 300,000 WordPress users trust WP Rollback. With just a click, you can safely roll back any plugin or theme. No manual file uploads and no downtime. And with WP Rollback Pro, you can download premium plugins and themes. Tools like Elementor, Gravity Forms, more. Track every rollback you do with detailed activity logs. Protect your workflow and take the stress out of updates. Learn more at WPRollback.com.
3, 2, 1. We're coming back, folks. Before we go into the second half, I want to point out we've got some great special offers from the sponsors, plus a curated list of the best WordPress plugins, services, and other tools for SaaS builders. It's really a fantastic free resource, and you can get this by going over to wp-tonic.com/deals, wp-tonic.com/deals, and you can get all the free goodies there. What more could you ask for, my beloved tribe? Probably a lot more, but that's all you're going to get on that page. This is a fun question. So, Casey, I had, I think it was about 18 months ago, I had the pleasure of speaking with David Siegel, the CEO of Meetup, and we kept in touch. I have to ask him to come back on the show. It was hilarious. I think he's been on the show a couple of times, actually. And when he first came on the show, we discussed his experiences with WeWork and Adam Neumann, and he said that Adam was brilliant, but also totally bonkers. I mean, absolutely bonkers. You seem a very focused individual, even more than David. David is very focused. But so you ended up at WeWork, and how much did you have to work with Adam, and what was your initial impressions of Adam?
Oh man, I met Adam earlier before I joined WeWork, but he is extremely, I mean, you know, when he's in the room, you know, there's an energy about him. He's also 6'6", right? But I mean, the first thing was, you know, I remember we were negotiating something with him, and he is quite the negotiator. I mean, there's stereotypes, it's like, he's, Israeli, and the culture of, negotiating. He's like, oh, okay. You can tell he's very charismatic. He's an incredible storyteller, which I think a lot of founders are, especially those that are very successful at fundraising or starting a movement. They have something about them, and at the end of the day, it's sales, if you think about it, right? So the first impression is he's obviously very different. You'll never forget him. But that was before WeWork. When I met him, when I joined WeWork, I don't think he remembered that we met. I'll never forget this conversation. I was the regional CFO of the Western US and Canada. This was just after SoftBank invested. And then my CEO, we're all regions, 7 regions. He goes, hi, hey, Adam, meet Casey, our new regional CFO of the Western North American. So I wasn't CFO, by the way, just to be clear. I was a regional CFO. And he looks at me, he goes, have you ever managed a $2 billion region? We were not that at the time. This is him being a founder. That's going to go public. And it was direct, right? It was now my culture is also very direct. And Israeli culture is also known to be very direct.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah. And so then I said, no. Have you ever led a $16 billion public company? And he goes, and he just smiles. And that's it. There was a respect, of a challenge where both of us, all of us, have never done what we're about to do. And so he's very direct. It was my first impression. Is very, very, very smart, very charismatic, and had a really, really strong vision that obviously attracted me there. I'm obviously, if you can tell, I'm an extrovert. I'm a community person. So WeWork is that. WeWork is about people and community.
When did you start to realize it was the other side of Adam, which I don't know if you met or worked with David Siegel, but he said, when he was on, he said it was like after the first couple of weeks, he saw a side of Adam where he realized it was a bit bonkers as well. Did you have that feeling?
Yes. I think a lot of strong visionaries, big storytellers, to be honest, almost every time you hear them talk, there is a level of extreme. There's a level of I call it 1 + 1 = 5.
Yeah, they're talking up their book. You expect it, don't you?
Things just don't make as much sense. For example, it was like we need all the regions. We need to regionalize all the financials in a month. I'm like, wait, what? Like that takes like 9 months. Yeah, well, you got 1 month, right? So there's a bonkersness to. You've seen Elon do this. Yeah, we're just going to do this many Teslas by way. What? And they're like, is he serious? Oh
yeah, but there's bonkerness and there's bonkerness, isn't there?
Yeah.
Did you get a sense that it was on Bonker Plus, as I would say?
I think and there's certain things I cannot talk about.
No, of course. I'm only asking stuff that you're comfortable. You're only going to share that with me.
Yeah, so I'm being selective because there's a lot of things that. No, I think the part that became more disconnected was, when you see the valuations we were raising at, it was disconnected because the amount of money we would take in would only give us, at the run rate, this was all known. The run, I'm going to make it up. It was like, it would give us 7 months of runway. But the valuation would require 6 years of doubling to justify it. Does that make sense? A valuation has a cost. So you have to match that with the money you got to achieve that valuation. So the runway was too short to achieve, or basically there's no margin of error. And so as I looked at it more and more, I was like, how are we going to do this? Now, obviously I didn't have the power. I was, at the regional level, at corporate, they raised money and they did their thing, you know. Maybe they had a secret plan up their sleeve, a different business model. I don't know. They have a lot of business models.
Well, David was quite scathing. It was an interesting interview because he was quite scathing about Adam in some ways, but very forgiving in others. He accepted he's part of it. When it comes to Adam, you know, obviously he's got this part of his experience was American, the Israeli, having dyslexia.
Yeah,
quite public about that, hasn't he? Also, the element of that his wife took in the business as well. All these factors. Would you say, before we move on to the next question, because some people say that it was a total con from beginning to end. I don't sense that myself. I have been merciless in taking the Mickey out of Adam and his wife, but I don't sense. Or do you think he got into it and it just got bigger and bigger? Really,
it's that. Yeah. No. I think actually this is one I do feel very strongly about, and I will. There are some people that have mixed up WeWork with Theranos.
Yeah.
Or that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Not at all. So there's a difference between a product that's a fraud and a really good product where it was mismanaged when it came to the finances. Mm-hmm. WeWork is real. WeWork is the leading global. I mean, it's an incredible space. They exist today, and there's many people who work there and love it. So no, that's obvious. It is what, to your point, what got weird, what got different was obviously the management of it, the speed. I can't comment. There's obviously like certain things he did or whatever that was questionable. So yes, that's a separate matter than the business. Right? The core of the business was a very simple idea that was very awesome, which is, why do co-working spaces have to be boring? Why can't it be more communal? Why does it have to be like a weird like hospital where no one talks to each other?
Exactly.
Why can't it be more loungy space and connecting and relationships? And it worked. So I think what's sad is if we had managed the pacing of it better, mm-hmm. It would have been very, very, I mean, it's very successful, right? That's the other thing. It's, it's still, billions of dollars, right? So it's not a failure. It was a failure in the sense of like expectations and what was raised.
So before we move on to the next question, I think what you're saying, I'm going to put this to, because in some ways I'm putting words into your mouth. I sense by what you just said that you feel that Adam in some ways was his worst enemy in some ways.
I actually think SoftBank, right? Because you actually think about it, when I asked like, wait, so why are we growing at that speed? Or why is this the metric? They said, that's what the board wants us to do.
Right.
So we were, air quote, following orders.
Yeah.
I mean, these are our investors. The board manages us. So it wasn't like the board said one thing and we just. So SoftBank was the main governance. And it was them and Adam who agreed, right? They tell Adam, the CEO, how he's going to get rewarded. Mm-hmm. And it was growth, not profit. Guess what we did? Grow. Because the orders were to grow. So I would say, grow square foot, not profit per square foot. It depends on what you measure. If you measure square footage, that's a very different measurement. I mean, I'm being very simple here, but the point is the orders were to grow crazy fast and to have profit secondary, not first. So in a weird way, who was also enabling? The board. Now, not all board members are created equal, right? Some boards, they didn't have the voting power, whatever. But to me, it is a combination of the people who have the governance and, of course, and the people who have governance is Adam and Masa. Meaning it wasn't Adam alone. Here's my thing. If Masa said, profit. I want you to become profitable. And then I'll give you a lot more money. I think things would have been different.
All right.
But he said, no, just go. And then, well, it could have worked, but that was a much bigger bet. So I think it was not just Adam.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a new perspective for me to think about. I see precisely where you're coming from, actually. Over to you, Kurt.
Well, Casey, I always have the job of switching gears. That's my role on the show. And so the gear we're going to switch to in this question has really to do with AI, but it's a different perspective than we've come from recently. For like the last year, we've said, oh, AI this, AI that, AI the other, but we're starting to feel like there's maybe a bubble coming, right? And you seem to have some experience with organizations and have some maybe bigger world thoughts. Where do you sit with the possibility that there's an AI bubble or funkiness connected to like the whole open AI and Sam Altman and some of the things he's been up to?
It's interesting, the definition of bubble. I'll define it as getting ahead of actual value, or priced ahead of. I'm trying to answer very succinctly. I think AI is very, very real. I think it's so. I think in analogies. So pardon me if I think AI is equivalent to kind of when the atomic bomb was kind of developed. Before that, it was conventional zeros and ones in software. Then all of a sudden, this orders of magnitude greater weaponry, in this case, technology, was discovered. It is kind of like that. It's like, oh, right? It was like so nonlinear. And just like nuclear technology changed the world, so is this in a major way. One of them is power. It costs a lot of money to do AI. It costs a lot of money to develop nuclear bombs, right? So you have the countries, right? You have the same type of, what's a little different is the technology is being shared with everyone. So the US wasn't sharing its secrets with everyone, right? People had to develop their ChatGPT, you just pay them $20 a month. Boom. And you can build your own incredibly billion-dollar backed technology, super intelligence. So what's different is, if you think about technology, does it change behavior? Does it add value? Absolutely. Oh my God, absolutely. If anyone disagrees with that, there's robots who are folding clothes right now. I just summarized an entire vomit that I did, in 2 seconds. I was like, wow, now that's a way better summary. Saving me time so I can spend time with my kids. There's real value. Full stop.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I don't think it's a bubble. I think what is a bubble could be certain valuations for certain companies. But the part that's not a bubble is AI is different in the sense that the market size it deals with is way larger than any other market size. And I can see this. Why? Growth. So what's not a bubble is there's a company, I will leave unnamed, that is adding 1 million of incremental ARR a day. Wow. The average price point is, I want to say, $400 a year. So they're not selling $100,000 contracts. That is how fast, that's how big their market is the conversions coming in is 1 million a day. Yeah. So that is real. When people are actually, so you know what's a bubble is when there's no money being transacted. Like, Yahoo eyeballs. No. People are paying. So you're actually seeing revenue so that the records are being broken. I think one company reached 500 million from almost a dead start in 17 months.
Wow.
So think about that. That is not the same as it's always been. So that does justify bigger valuations. Now, the question is how big? So the bubblish part would be, I think it's worth $1 trillion, but it's really worth 500 billion. So size and scale are all there. The other part is there's going to be a lot of what I call graveyard. So it's very easy to start an AI business now because for $20 a month, air quote, you can just pipe in and everything's easier now. Coding's easier, right? So that's great. You can innovate a lot faster. The issue is when you have more people trying, you have a lot more lotto tickets. There's only a certain amount of customers in the world. So it doesn't. So not everyone can win. So there's going to be a lot of, instead of 10 new companies in the past trying to the same thing, it's 50. But that also means way more people don't make it.
Well, it's when you're in our space, you can just see it through your own feed. Like when you're on social media and you're getting fed the ads, the ads were ChatGPT $20 a month, right? The ads were Claude $20 a month. And now the ads are this new WYSIWYG, AI agent tool that has 2,500 tools and it's a lifetime deal at $60. And you're going, that seems like we've already, like how quickly we went from like a PC used to be $5,000 and now you can run the Best Buy and buy it for $300. But it took decades for that price model to come into that perspective. And with AI, we've seen it go from here to here in a year or 18 months. And it's pretty shocking.
It's because of the dynamics I discussed, which is the powerful technology is cheaper for everyone now. So the cost of starting a product is less.
Yeah.
So that means you can charge less. Then the other factor is there's more competitors. So what happens when you have more competitors? Price goes down. We have too much choice.
Yeah.
To your point, I bundle 500 things. I'll bundle 1,000 things. Oh, the consumer is winning. Now, consumer is also getting completely drowned, right? But we have more choice than ever. This phone is so powerful. The amount of things, I lost my phone for a day. I went nuts. I literally couldn't call an Uber. I couldn't check my babysit. I was like, I didn't realize the power we have as a consumer, as an individual. So to get that consumer's time, I mentioned time.
Yeah.
Which app am I looking at? Ooh, I have 1,000 apps. Instagram is number one, right? Gmail. Wow. To be that is extremely hard. So there's a lot of failure. And by the way, you have to get my money too, not just my attention. You have to get my money, or attention can be money, right? That's Facebook. But think about it. There's only so much 24 hours in a day. And we have so much. I can go to a concert tomorrow. I can go do this. I can go, oh my God, too much choice. So you just think about it visually. It's massively crowded, highly competitive, lot of deaths. And those who win big.
Yeah.
Win real big. So the extremes are happening now.
Well, and your reference to time multiple times in this particular interview, for me is a dichotomy way of thinking. Two very extreme things, because there's so many options. Time is so valuable, but at no time in my adult life do I remember people just sitting and mindlessly scrolling for 2 or 3 hours on something silly. And so on one hand, time is exponentially more valuable, but it's exponentially more squandered than it's ever been.
Well, to use the same analogy but for different, is someone told me social media is like the discovery of the nuclear weapon. It is. So what they were saying is humans innovate. Generally, they have good intentions, right? Generally selfish, but good intentions. What happens is we discover something and then it gets unleashed and we cannot put it back. For example, the steam engine or industrial, it's like, whoa. And so cars are great. Cars are pollutants. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you find nuclear technology. There's nuclear reactors that are amazingly, helpful to power the world. And then they also kill and do genocide, right? So, but we can't pull it back. Once the technology is discovered, we cannot pull it back. Good is using it. Bad is using it. AI. Social media. Using for good. There are people now that can make money that could not make money before because they can add value and create, and it's no longer about the corporations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's a lot of bad with social media. I mean, I have 3 children. They are addicted as all hell.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying it's the same thing. So yeah, it's good and bad. Unleashed, oh God, we can't put it back. Social media, unleashed, oh, what is happening? So I hopefully I'm an optimist that as humanity, we more good than bad, but the bad is always there. And that's going to be the same with AI.
Nice. Very insightful. Jonathan?
Yeah, we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show because Kurt's got a hard deadline at 10. Can you stay on for another 10 minutes or do you have to leave, Cassie?
I think I can. Yeah, I think I'm good. Yep.
All right, because I like to go through a couple other questions, but we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show, but you'll be able to hear the whole interview on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. And if you like the whole show, think about subscribing to that. We've got a ton of content on there. So, Cassie, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and what you're up to?
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. If I'm in LinkedIn, you can also, if you're interested in the Operators Guild and you're an operator, you're a scaler, or an elite generalist at early stage, please sign up for Operators Guild, or you can ping me. Find my team it's all there. Angel investing, I think, is extremely good way of learning about what's going on in the world. FOG Ventures is the investing arm of OG. FOG stands for Operators Guild. We have some of the most elite tier 1 companies syndicated there. There's no cost to actually to invest, but you get to see the best deals. So obviously you got to be confidential about it, but just reading who are the leading players tells you a lot about the world. So yeah, my job is to basically help operators navigate this crazy world as a profession and as a community.
That's fantastic. And Kurt, what's the best way for people to find more about you and what you're up to?
Well, like Casey, I try to be on LinkedIn almost every day. So if you want to make a personal connection, that's the spot to do it. And then for business, it's mañana no más.
That's fantastic. And if you really enjoyed this interview, one way you can support the show is if you're listening on your phone and listening either on Spotify or iTunes, it's really easy to leave us a review. And those reviews are really important because they are shown, the podcast is then shown to a load of other new people who can then benefit from our guests and their wisdom. So if you could leave us a review, like I say, on Spotify or iTunes, that would really help, folks. We will be back next week with another great interview. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
So let's go on to the next part of the show. So what are some of the AI tools and, also the products that might have been pitched to you or through your network that have come on your radar over the last couple of months that really got you a little bit excited? Anything that you could share with us?
I mean, there's the usual ones people know about, obviously ChatGPT. Gamma, there's a member of OG, it's for presentations, AI presentations. Harvey is for legal.
Yeah.
I love Rillet. The CFO tech stack. So Rillet is doing incredible things in the ERP world. So ERP is, the general ledger, so accounting, so B2B.
Yeah.
So obviously it's less consumer-ish, right? But I think is incredible. There's a whole bunch of other CFOs, new future titans coming. I mean, I can keep listing, but I think that in general, what's happening is what I like is to see the application layer build out for very specific use cases.
Yeah.
And that's really nice to see that, there's a use case study for that is very specific and well done, and high value for a certain persona.
What was your response to the report by MIT, about business to business? Obviously, it was like a little mini hand grenade when they dropped that report, where it was saying that a lot of business to business, a lot of corporate companies that were utilizing AI wasn't really seeing a clear return on the investment. What was your reaction to that report and the way it was reported?
I didn't read that report, but I've heard that a lot. I think, to me, it's an expectations mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the top of the first inning of AI. We're in the early days. So when you want to compare, I think it's an expectations thing. They're expecting some major change. Just give it a little time. If you don't think it's going to deliver impact, just give it a year, So once again, I don't know what they're measuring against, if they're measuring against something very high in terms of what it's supposed to do or expectations, well, yeah, it's going to miss it. If you're measuring against, replacing a human, not yet. Right. But
well, I think the industry in itself, and Sam Altman is the kind of poster child, in my own opinion. I don't think it's done itself a lot of favors, but to me, there's an enormous drive because what you indicated in how you answered previous questions is that there's not a lot stopping new players. So really you want to build up an enormous base of capital, then try and attempt to build a market position where you're more defended. So there seems to be an enormous rush to get capital and to get as much capital backers as you can, but on the other hand, you got OpenAI and ChatGPT. It's got enormous brand recognition now. It's become a verb. Like let's do a Zoom through COVID. AI. It's ChatGPT. Yeah. But I just want to put this to you. I'm no expert on it. I have got a couple, not close friends, but people that I can speak to that are AI scientists, and these large learning models and scaling has achieved some amazing results. But there's a lot of people in the AI industry that say that scaling's the return that you're going to get through scaling
will diminish.
Plateaued to a certain level, and they're doing a gamble about looking at other AI technologies that might get this what they call general intelligence.
Yeah.
Rather than focusing on what you were indicating, which was that second layer where you're looking at specific industries, groups where specific elements of AI could get a return on investment. What's your views on what I've just outlined?
I think there's always, if you see technology, there's always going to be plateaus and then reaccelerations. Reaccelerations. To me, what matters is the general direction. The general direction is, I just say it more factually, not as I wish for something, but AI was going to be more of the world. That's just, it's kind of when the internet started. It doesn't matter what plateau or not. It's going to continue to. That's it. Or when people say, "Oh, my privacy on Facebook, I don't want it." It's going to go one way, less privacy. It's like fighting gravity. So to me, people are just looking at these like very close in time. It's plateauing right now. Okay. But if you pull out, it's going up. It's like a stock. If you look at, day by day, oh, look, the stock is, but in general, it's only going to go one way. It's more usage, more power, more intelligence. How it's going to be used, we don't know. But it's no different than every single, when the first car came out, only more cars. When the first plane came out, more planes. Like there's not going to be this, oh, I guess we're done. All right, we're done with AI. I guess it's plateaued. I guess we're going to stop here. No, not going to happen. That I'm very confident about. So these people who are talking about plateau, okay. Well, here what happens in nature is that it offsets. So when something gets too costly and you don't get enough value, the cost goes down. So eventually, too, there's like the cost of GPUs, the cost of data start to decrease per GPU, right? Because we get more efficient. So all of a sudden, it starts to, remember the whole cost per output? Well, the cost of whatever you're getting is going down, just like TVs, right? TVs used to be $10,000. Now they're $200, right? So the cost of components, the cost of starts going down. And then it reaccelerates progress. So I think there's a natural ebb and flow of that. I'm not saying it goes forever, but I think we're so early to be able to say we've plateaued, I think is unlikely.
Well, I think you pointed out a really interesting concept there, but on the other hand, it just really depends. Obviously, it's logical if you've utilized certain technology and you've just utilized, like I say, I'm not an expert on it, but you just utilize very large data models and very sophisticated mathematics, and you utilize pure computer power to scale. And if you can build out more scale, you're going to get a better result. But other experts, they say that, and it's difficult for me to make an assessment because I'm not in that industry, right? That scaling, they could build a much bigger data center. They can throw a lot more resources, but they're saying that the technology's reached the limit. I think what you're saying is that you're pretty confident there will be other technologies that they will be able to utilize on that present plateau and accelerate again. Is that the crux of your?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right.
I think it's just ebb and flow.
I think that's what they're betting on, isn't it?
Just ebb and flow. Yeah, of course it's going to plateau. It needs to rest a bit. Jesus, it's done. It's advanced pretty quickly. So of course things plateau here and there in life. Everything slows a little bit, but I think what they're trying to say potentially is that it's done. It's plateau. This is it. This is the. I mean, come on. Would you?
Well, it really does depend if they can bolt on other technologies or other concepts upon what I personally do believe that what I've read that scaling has reached a kind of plateau. They're just making a bet. What's your reaction to the environmental consequences of all this? Basically building a load of new data centers and the electricity and building a load of gas-fired energy units, or looking at nuclear that will take at least 10 years to come online. And then you've got the actual water consequences of what these data centers need. This doesn't seem to be on the radar a lot. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely have heard this, and I'm not very close to it, but absolutely, I think resource consumption is something that is very important. As I was mentioning before, I think with all powerful technologies, there's good and bad. My hope and optimism is hopefully, whenever mankind reaches some kind of problem, my hope is that there's an adjustment. Now obviously we've not done the greatest job in history of preventing everything, but my point is, if we run into a resource issue, generally speaking, there's an incentive to develop more efficient things that need less resources. For example, electric cars, right? When fossil fuels, all that were becoming an issue, or pollutant, there was an incentive to develop electric cars. Right? So I think whatever it is, the usage of water, et cetera, my hope is people say this cannot continue. And what happens is new technology. So right now, our current technology takes up a lot of electricity, per whatever current. But we've all seen in technology, things get more efficient. Now the question is how fast. So that's my answer is yes, all of that is very real. No different when the automobile came out. I was like, oh my God, it's going to use up a lot of things called fossil fuels, right? It's also a resource that's going to be consumed, right? That's going to run out. And sure enough, we have electric, right? So I think that's just going to happen. Is that
well, yeah, but the same thing about EV, electric cars, great, but obviously expanded enormously in China and to some extent on the coastal areas of North America and extensively in Europe. But there's not, in Europe, it really was based, apart from France, really based on Russian gas and oil supply. In China, the actual electricity for these electric cars is supplied by coal, mostly by coal, which is one of the most dirtiest energy mechanisms possible. So how would you respond? It doesn't seem, obviously the Chinese government, I'm only based on what I've read and heard, is they're investing a lot of money in energy, nuclear, but like I say, we haven't seen the end results. Most of that energy provision is done through coal. So
yeah, as I mentioned, I don't think we do it perfectly. I don't think we've done a great job, but
I suppose what you're saying is there is no alternative, because obviously oil's the worst. You got to look, it's not perfect.
That's right. I'm much more about what I call pragmatist is, yeah. When people keep spotting the issues, that's fine. There's also solutions going on.
Well, I'm English, so I'm bound to do
that. Yeah. But it's, first of all, I think it's very important for people to be calling these things out. Then I asked them, what do you think is going to happen? Mankind's going to die? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what they say. They think eventually, what is it going to happen? It's mankind a potential, but otherwise mankind will find another way to move on. If the coal becomes a problem, you know what I'm saying? And I'm saying this in a flippant way. No. I'm saying we live in probably one of the most overall peaceful times in history.
Yeah.
You take us to, I don't know, 2,000 years ago when there could be crusades being, the people getting killed, and they thought the world was ending. We are actually in a relatively okay spot. Of course, there's very scary things like AI and nuclear, but I think all times of mankind, there have been strife, there have been worry, and we figure it out. And of course, I think eventually there is an end to mankind, right? Whatever it is, like the dinosaurs or whatever you want to believe. Yeah.
Well, everybody and everything does end, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know if people are saying it's going to end in the next 100 years. Is that what they're saying? Or so yeah, that's all. Is all of these are true. Everything is pros and cons, good and bad, and they're just calling it out. And this new one is going to be electricity needs, data center needs. But I do believe in mankind to innovate, whether it's for profit or whatever, but to come up with a solution to move on. And the hope is we don't, damage everything doing it. But like I said, social media, terrible things, also benefited a lot of things. So it's a very tricky, I think it's just life. And focusing on just doomsday one thing or super optimism, I think are all not great.
I try and be pragmatic, but so let's go for the last question. If you had a time machine, H.G. Wells, or if you watch British television, your own TARDIS, and you could go back at the beginning of your career, is there any kind of little whisper or anything you like to tell yourself? And the one thing you can't say is not coming on this podcast. So anything else you can say? So any little tip you would love to?
Obviously, investment tips would be pretty good. Buy a thing called Google, buy a thing called.
Well, it's got to be more spiritual.
Yeah, I know. I've always been an extrovert, but I think how much time I spend building relationships, I wish I spent more of that time earlier on doing that. Obviously, as a kid, you're in the cubicle, you're working, you're not spending time as much with building relationships as senior folks maybe. But I think telling myself early on, focus on building good relationships, spend more of your time with others, building great relationships, understanding, learning from them. That would be what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice. Casey, it's been a fantastic interview. I think we've covered a ton of different topics.
You're great questions. Great questions.
Oh, thank you. I try and provide value for the people we're interviewing. And I think it's a great time to wrap it up. Like I say, folks, we will be back next week with another great interview. We'll see you soon.